kind of work for the venture I work for the Iowa Startup Accelerator Ventures, which is a venture capital fund led by Eric Engelman. And they invest in the startups, and then he hands the startups over to me to do the programming and educational content and mentoring and all coaching, et cetera, et cetera.
Awesome.
Very cool.
With that, I mean, I guess now that it's already 11 o'clock, I don't know where the time has gone. It seemed like we had 7 minutes and now all of a sudden it's after 11. So I think we'll go ahead and get started. As I was telling Nathan and Laurel, like, I are adamant about always being done on time. So first of all, welcome back to any attendees that have been here before after our planned July hiatus. We're back with 45-Minute Mogul. This month's topic is everything to launch an idea, essentially. Before I'm going to pass it to Christine to introduce our panelists for today. But before we get started, if you have any questions at any time for any of the panelists or all of the panelists, feel free to use that Q&A feature and we will try to monitor that and get to all of your questions before we're done. Again, it is a webinar format, so we apologize in advance if anything goes wrong. And then I will also put my email in the chat. So if you want to follow up with any of the panelists today, or myself or Christine, you definitely have that way to reach out to everyone. I am Nikki Ferguson, Manager of Entrepreneurial Development for Advanced Southwest Iowa Corporation. We are the economic development organization for Council Bluffs and Potawatomi County. So yeah, with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Christine to introduce our experts today.
Thanks, Nikki. So real quick, my name is Christine Plunkett. I work for the Nebraska Enterprise Fund. We are a community development finance institution. We serve Southwest Iowa and Nebraska with revolving loan funds, training and coaching for small businesses seeking to start up, grow and expand. So I'm going to go ahead and start with Laurel. Laurel Otkin, she's with the Startup Collaborative. Laurel, will you just maybe give us a little brief synopsis of what you do?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thanks, Christine, for the introduction. My name is Laurel Otkin. As Christine mentioned, I'm the program manager for the Startup Collaborative. We are a program within the Greater Omaha Chamber. Historically, we have been very focused in on being an incubator for startups in the Greater Omaha area. So when you think of incubator, it means coming in, kind of going through a step-by-step framework and learning how to grow your business and take an idea from start to finish. Luckily, we have another subject matter expert on the call, Nathan, who also has some experience in this area and was at the Startup Collaborative for a while too. But one of the things that I would love to highlight about TSC and kind of where we're going forward is a new program that we're introducing called the First Customer Network. So, you know, being at the Chamber, we have a ton of resources and access to incredible companies and organizations across the metro area. And so finding a way to intentionally match some of those companies with founders and startups in their early days and early stages. Mentorship, validating ideas, those things are incredibly important when you're first getting started. And so I'm sure that there will be opportunities to elaborate a little bit more on that. And I will definitely send a plug and a link through later on. But thank you for joining us and excited to speak more.
Laurel, thank you so much. How about Nathan Preheim with Proven Inventors? Nathan, why don't you give us a little synopsis of your new life outside of where you used to be?
Yeah, hi, good morning. I am the co-founder of the Startup Collaborative. This was an organization that was very near and dear to me. We helped men and women take the first step in creating sort of solid, sustainable, cash flowing businesses. We got pretty good at that. My business partner, Erica Wassinger, and I have recently turned our attention to the funding side of the equation. So if there are good, solid, cash flowing startups, where do they go for that first round of capital? So Proven Ventures is a new take on venture, specifically for Midwest. We're a debt equity fund. So we invest capital in companies that have a little bit of traction, just need a little bit of kindling to spark the fire to scale. And I'm sure we'll have a chance to talk a little bit about that later on. But pleasure to be here. Nice to see you all.
Great. And Alex, I think some people may have stepped in a little bit while you were going through telling us about what you do, but why don't you go ahead and talk about that? Alex is with the Iowa Startup Accelerator. Did I say that right? Yes.
You sure did. You sure did. Thank you very much, Christine. Uh, yes, I'm the managing director of the Iowa Startup Accelerator, and much like Laurel and Nathan, have the opportunity to work with startup businesses. The Startup Accelerator has access to a venture capital fund that will fund startups pre-revenue all the way through to advance. We have four stages of investment, and 25,000 for some equity, and up then quickly to 100,000 total. That really comprises the bulk of the accelerator programming. But after they get acceleration in the marketplace and need additional funding, we have tranches of $250,000 up to $1 million, depending on the stage of the organization, their financial needs. And usually at those latter stages, they're going out for Series A and have other venture funds involved, such as Nathan's would be a great example. We might partner with them. The accelerator itself has programming, coaching, everything it takes to get the startup idea beyond just an idea on the back of a bar napkin. We probably get people who have already gone through an incubation stage that Laurel was talking about, but are just prior to really hitting the market big. And our goal here is to work with the founders with, again, a series of content and instructional programming and mentoring, coaching, and then anything we can do to make sure they are hit the market full-fledged to be profitable and have a good exit.
Awesome. Well, welcome everyone. We appreciate you sitting on this panel, and Nikki, I'll go ahead and pass it back to you and we can get started.
All right, thank you, Christine, and thank you, panelists. I'm really excited to pick your brains today and use your expertise. I'm going to go ahead and start with a couple of pre-submitted questions that we got in. To anyone attending, again, use that Q&A feature. Send over anything, any level, high level, low level, whatever questions you want answered. Now's your chance to, like I said, have the free resources right in front of you. Okay, first of all, if you have a good idea, what is the first step to ensuring that no one takes that idea? And I don't know if each one of you want to kind of give your input on that. Any volunteers? Go for it, Nathan.
So my first question is, how do you know it's a good idea? So I think without any market feedback, a lot of men and women think they've got great ideas that would be great fodder for startups. But I'd say challenge that assumption a little bit and go into the market and find out if there is a urgent and desperate need to solve the problem that idea relates to. And if there isn't an urgent, desperate need within the market, I would say it's not a very good idea. And that can be hard to sort of go through that process, because many entrepreneurs, they sort of get married to the solution before they understand if there's a problem to solve. So I'd start there. And what do some other folks think?
I completely agree, Nathan. I would say almost to a startup business that knocks on our door, they have an idea and they think it's a good idea, but until they've done extensive customer discovery, that idea morphs and changes, and in some cases gets thrown into the trash bin. The first thing you do is validate that you have a good idea, and that is, hundreds of interviews with potential customers or the people that whose problem you're trying to solve, to make sure that you're solving the problem and that your solution actually works or resonates with them. The two questions I would throw on top of that is make sure that there's enough intensity and frequency of the problem that somebody will pay for it. So the simple example is, if I have a glass of water and I want to sell it to you for $100, you're going to say, no way, Alex. If I have this very same glass of water a week from now where you haven't had a thing to drink, you might pay $150 for it. So frequency, intensity of the problem will dictate how good of an idea it is and how relevant it is to today's marketplace.
Awesome, thank you. Laurel, do you have any thoughts?
I would say I'd echo a lot of what both Nathan and Alex said. A lot of it is just that early market validation and making sure that you're, at the end of the day, you're going to have someone who's willing to pay for the product or solution or service you're trying to provide. So I would say they answered in an excellent way.
Awesome.
I might just want and say that there's a lot of service providers that would say, you know what you really need to do is you really need to incorporate day one. You should think about like making sure that you ask people to sign NDAs before you talk to it. I think that's all sort of fake work. I don't think it has a lot of value. And I think it's honestly, it's a ton of bad advice. So in terms of what they can do to protect it, most of the success of entrepreneurs is in the execution of the idea, not protecting of the idea. So I'd say run forward, blaze every trail, get some traction. At that point, there might be something to protect, but focus on the effort of discovery and progress, not protecting this this idea that you have.
I'm
Awesome.
going to coattail on that. And I agree. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors that go on, and people hit this, go get a patent application or a provisional patent right off the bat. It's not worth it right away. But I would say if you have a good idea, find good business mentors through the SBDC or a venture firm, or Laurel, the Chambers of Commerce, or find somebody. The three of us are good examples. We'll advise you when it's time to file that provisional. But if you just go out and blast through this stuff on your own because your neighbor told you to do it, you might be wasting a lot of time and energy behind. There are good people out there that are honest, that will give you sound advice on when to file for that IP if indeed that's necessary. Vet the idea with customers first is probably the best idea.
Awesome. I have a couple of questions that could actually kind of go right along with that, but I'm just going to pick one and go with it. Going back to the validation, is this in fact a problem? Are surveys an okay way to validate a concept? And do you have any suggestions on that phase?
Since Nathan went first last time, I'll go first. Laurel,
Thanks,
you're
Alex.
up next time. Surveys are certainly one tool, but quite honestly, face-to-face. And if you have a prototype, get the prototype in the hands of the customer and get them using it, and really spend time with them. And if you can at all get the customer using the beta website, or if it's a technology thing, or if it's an actual product, have them use it. I have a pen here and it's amazing. I can give this pen to a customer saying, this pen writes the best novels in the world. And the first thing the customer does is start picking its ear with it, and picking their toenails with it. And they don't use the pen the way I thought they would. And that sort of discovery, Nathan said it, and we all come in with a bunch of assumptions, and those assumptions need to be challenged. And to do it with a survey, there's an art to writing a really good survey, and we all write these surveys off the top of our head with unintended biases, so the results will be slanted. That's why I don't trust written surveys unless it's done by a real professional, and most of us can't afford those sorts of professionals at an early stage of a business. Face-to-face meetings with customers, I think, is the way to go.
Awesome. Nathan, Laurel, anything to add with Alex's response?
I might say that I'm a big believer of breadth and depth. So I think surveys give you the breadth, right? And you get, a little bit of insight from a large number of people. One of the reasons why I kind of champion and advocate for it is if those survey takers are potential customers, you're actually doing a 2-for-1. You're lead sourcing and you're getting people into your sales funnel, believe it or not. But if you just did that exclusively, you'll get slightly more than superficial feedback. So the way to augment that is to go deeper through a series of interviews. And kind of like if you just did 10 deep interviews, that's not a great start into a CRM, right? So I think there's ways that you can achieve both to get great quantitative data back from surveys, who again are potential customers, and then get great, almost like qualitative color back in those forms of those long form interviews, like Alex was saying, that you just can't replicate that through tech. So I'd say both.
The only thing I would add on, I do agree with both Alex and Nathan. I would say take it a step further as well. Once you're having those initial conversations, use that content that you're getting from your customers to continue to validate the ideas, and use those for marketing propositions. And like Nathan said, to continue to drive leads toward your business. But at the same time too, you shouldn't be just surveying when you're trying to validate your initial idea. You should be talking to your customers consistently throughout the process, continuing to validate the service, product, whatever you're providing is still providing essential value to the customers that you're trying to reach and beyond. So I would just include that as well.
Awesome. Is there, and do you guys think, I mean, with your clients or someone you're working with, is there a magic number of you need to have 200 surveys and 25 in-person real deep dives? Or, I mean, is there a magic number, or is it depending on the industry, for example?
I think it's a great question. Oh, I'm sorry, Alex, please. You go, you first.
The venture schools, the John Papa John Entrepreneurial Center venture schools, which are thrown throughout the state of Iowa, they typically, and we love to get the companies that have come out of there because they've done a lot of discovery. I think they set their number at a minimum of 100, but that number is never definitive because theoretically you should always be doing customer discovery even after you've launched the product. There are always nuances and changes you need to make to the product and or service as you continue to evolve.
That's a great answer. Some of this is kind of like Goldilocks, right? Where it's like, it's just right. There is a law of diminishing returns on this. And we try not to make the process too academic, meaning like, well, I just want to research and research and research, and I want to collect all this knowledge. And that's essential. But at some point though, you have to like transform, break through, and build something. So I like that 100 number. I mean, it sounds right. Some entrepreneurs hear that and they think, boy, that is just like, that is so many. And I actually think it's the first great test of entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is selling. That's what it is. And if you're not able to get in front of 100 potential customers to get their feedback, I don't know if you have what it takes. And that sounds really cruel and harsh. I don't mean it to be, but it's a great pretest. It's also, I would argue, one of the easiest things to accomplish in that entrepreneurial journey. And if you're finding that this is insurmountable, or you just can't get there, or hey, maybe you're not an entrepreneur, and that's okay. There's lots of other things you can support entrepreneurs. You can be part of teams, but it's a great pretest.
Good to know. And I'm going to go ahead and, jump off script or off the, submitted questions here, Nathan, with what you were saying about maybe you just don't have it. And I think there are a lot of people that are creatives or super intelligent and can come up with these incredible ideas, but having the gumption, we'll say, or the drive to actually do it. What are your thoughts on building a team from day one and just saying, like, I know I am not capable of doing the behind the scenes, the actual legwork, whatever, or I am capable of doing that, but I can't sell. At what stage do you think start talking to people, let's start building a team, and not be, hold it so close to the chest and keep it your little secret and try to do it alone? I mean, at what point do you start to build that, and who do you reach out to start to build that?
Well, I think starting up is a team sport, and I feel bad for individuals who decide to take it on, because I don't know if I've ever met one person that literally has all the essential skills to be a really, really successful entrepreneur. It takes a team. And the sooner you have self-awareness about what you're good at, but also what you're not good at, figure out what your gaps are, and then plug those holes. And guess what? This goes back to selling. You need to sell people on your vision to bring the right folks into your team. Or on the flip side, how can you partner up with someone who could sell or be that entrepreneur? So yeah, Nikki, I think the first thing you should do is like figure out who can help me, who can I align myself with, so that it effectively increases the odds of success, knowing full well what I'm good at versus what I'm not good at, and then stacking the team in my favor.
Right. And I think there's a lot of, I'm just talking out of my own, where people want to partner with someone who's exactly like them. Like, say, Nathan and I have the exact same personality, so we're going to partner. Well, that's not necessarily a good thing, because who's filling, is really being aware of who you're reaching out to and who you're partnering with. Maybe not the most alike you person, but the person that makes up for where you're maybe not as strong. So, and is that something like, Laurel, that the Startup Collaborative in its current form, if I'm I've got something, but I know I can't do this on my own. The customer network, finding those people who are saying this would be a great person for you to talk to. Do all of you have those abilities, and would you help people at that with that phase, for example?
Definitely. And I would say, one of the incredible things about being affiliated with the chamber, even if it's through the startup community, we're meeting people and we're talking to people every single day that have fantastic ideas, but they maybe need that extra support, as Nathan was kind of talking about, trying to build their team. And, a lot of what we're going to be doing, especially over the next few months, is really being that connector and trying to get folks together in a room to have these conversations and, facilitate that charge of who can I connect with that's going to help me build the next big thing. And so I think the chamber is a huge resource for that, and myself included in that, and just connecting across the board, whether it's trying to introduce you to fellow founders, people that are eager to get into this and start building something, or it's mentors that have done it before and can kind of help advise along the way. So definitely great resource for us, and for those who are starting to think about that and maybe want to take that next step.
Awesome, thank you. And I'm going to move on down because I don't want to leave anybody's questions out if possible. That said, if there's something that doesn't get asked, reach out to me. I can, like I said, connect you to the panelists and we can get those answers for you, even if it's not here. Going back to, I believe, Alex, you kind of mentioned prototypes earlier. I have a question. I have what I think is an awesome idea. Problem is I'm not techie and can't build a prototype. Do you have a low-cost solution?
A couple come to mind right away is take advantage of local community colleges and local universities. A lot of those places have, professors who specialize in product development, and there are students who may want to help tackle that idea. And I know professors, again, I think community colleges, technical schools, and the universities. UNO has got a great program over there in Omaha. Those are great places to go and find the faculty member who can maybe throw a couple of students at it, or help you develop that idea yourself. And again, I think Laurel's right too. The chamber may have resources, people who've expressed interest in helping startups with projects and special projects as assigned. Those are just two that jump to mind. But networking with people who are well networked, build your professional network and tell people that you're looking for help with certain things. And I always use the insurance model. Ask your friend, and then ask your friend about any friends that they know that they can refer you to, and just continue to pitch your idea and ask for help when you need it.
I would just include on that, Alex, a real life testimonial that I saw of that yesterday, of using your network. I was at a conference out in Kearney, and a startup that's more in the agriculture industry, and they're focusing on, it's called Grain Weevil. They're trying to put technology into grain bins, and so that individuals, farmers, don't have to go into grain bins, which are incredibly dangerous. He was saying that, half of the people that he's connected with that have helped to really scale their idea and bring it to life are people in his neighborhood. His next door neighbor was someone that knew somebody who, specialized in robotics and beyond. So even talking to the people that are close to you once you're kind of in those stages and trying to build your network from there, it's incredible how many folks, especially in Nebraska, are well connected and can help you build and really expand your idea.
I got some thoughts on this. Great question, by the way. First, draw the blueprint. All right, draw the blueprint. And I would say sell the blueprint, and make sure that blueprint really articulates the unique value prop. And if your blueprint really, really does have a unique value prop that solves a problem, you can get some commitments off a sketch on a paper. I mean, I've seen it done. That's how we launched my first startup. We literally sold it off paper and got some customer commitments. And then we used those customer commitments to actually build the blueprint. There are some really interesting no-code solutions these days, right? Where anyone, myself, my son, my daughter, could actually build out a platform using a series of web interfaces that don't require any programming background. But I also think one of the more clever ways to do this is, and hear me out, deliver the product as a service first. So become a consultant and deliver it through time and effort. and build relationships with your customers. And then ultimately, as you generate more revenue, then you can actually convert the service to a product, and then draw down your service and draw up your product.
Awesome. That's an interesting way to look at it. So what you're saying, Nathan, is this does not have to be a physical, like, this is my new widget. It can be a virtual, if you will, or just a drawing on a piece of paper.
Either or, honestly, I think solve 90% of the challenge of getting something built.
Awesome. Thank you. That's very, very informative. And still doing we're doing okay on time. Have you seen the commercials for that company that helps you submit your invention? What do they do for you? I'm assuming this is inventor submission with the little guy inventing the wheel. Thoughts?
They're probably taking advantage of you. They're probably exploiting you.
The old adage, if it's too good to be true, probably not true.
Okay,
Probably
so
don't have your best
in
interest.
a Maury Povich commercial.
Actually,
Actually,
there are so many vampires and vultures out there that, you know, they're not entrepreneurs, and they're just looking on ways to feed off entrepreneurs, and incredibly protective of entrepreneurs. They're the rock stars in my mind. They're the crazy ones, but I mean that in the best possible way. And I would be very, very cautious. This is also too, like, that's a partner. And I think if you don't know your partner real well, then don't do that deal. Ideally, you know, you have a good relationship with him or her, or whatever that service is. And so test that relationship. It's the classic, like, go on a few dates before you get married kind of stuff, because there's so much to lose here. Yeah, be careful.
absolutely.
Yeah, you know, that's something really, really important. I didn't pipe in on co-founders. The Iowa Startup Accelerator will very, 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 very cautiously invest in a sole proprietor. It's very rare that we will. It always makes me a little nervous. It's good to see that if one person thinks they can solve the world's problems or invent their own business, I'm very skeptical. Admit your weaknesses, find somebody who can complement your skills. And as Nathan just said, and it really reminded me of this, it's a dating game. As you are doing your customer discovery, and as you are vetting this idea with people, the people that get really passionate and are jumping up and down, are as excited about it as you are, and say, let me know how I can help. Those are the people you want to start vetting and dating, if you may, and get them involved in small projects here, small projects there. And over a period of time, you're going to realize there's some really good synergies there, and they make for really good co-founders. And then when you get approached by those vultures out there and vampires, vet this with your partner, and they'll help talk you off the ledge. If they're truly honest, they'll prevent you from chasing this shiny object.
Awesome. And then another question, are business plans a critical step? If so, what are the key components? Any takers?
Yeah, I have so much to say. I love this stuff, but I also don't want to hog. I'm sorry. I think business plans are old-fashioned, and they're like an ancient relic. Lean Canvas is a much better way to go, because it's 13 questions. It's effectively a one-page business plan, but more importantly, it's dynamic and it's fluid. And I sort of joke, it's written in pencil, because you will change your assumptions all the time based on customer feedback. So business plans out, Lean Canvas in.
Awesome. Thank you. And another one in the chat here, any advice for how to keep partnerships healthy over time? Do any of you have input on that? Pretty long-standing partnership. Alex?
That's a really great question, because I've also seen co-founders break up, which is really awful, which gets into the vetting of them from the get-go. Make sure you're making the right decision. I'd almost say it's as important as getting married to somebody. To keep it healthy, though, is just be honest. Be honest with each other. If you don't like a pink striped shirt, tell your partner you don't like pink stripes, and be candid with each other. And you know what? The other side of that coin, accept that feedback as constructive feedback. Don't take everything personally. You're both working towards that same shared goal, and remind yourselves constantly that you may disagree from time to time, but if you're both working towards that same mission, vision, value proposition, keep reminding yourselves that we may agree to disagree, solve the problem, move on, and keep pushing forward for the benefit of the organization.
Absolutely. Laurel, Nathan, any additional thoughts?
I was just going to lean in. I think, partnerships in the sense of who your co-founder is and who your team is are important, but it's also important to consider the partnerships that you maybe have with folks like Nathan that are in the venture capital space and are your funders, because those relationships and partnerships are incredibly important to your long-term success. So, thinking very clearly about who you want to work with and vetting that as much as you can, but also community partnerships too. The chamber is really trying to be very intentional in our first customer network of very intentionally pairing and matching, startups and founders with some of our chamber member businesses. So doing that in an intentional way, as well as your vendors and who you're working with on that space too. And so I would just include that as a note.
Yeah, and no hidden agendas. Make sure you're both looking at the same thing. If you both want to sell the business at the end and exit, fat, rich, and happy, great. But if one of you wants to stay with, make sure you're clear up front what your expectations are from each other and from the organization.
Good banter. I couldn't agree more. It's like, know that you have alignment day one. And if you have alignment day one and you want the same today, tomorrow, but also have the same end game, that's the best way to keep the relationship healthy, because you're all working towards the same North Star. But if you're misaligned day one, it's really hard to maintain any health in that relationship, because there's just going to be like constant friction where this partner wants to go here and this partner wants to go here. And it's like, whoa, hold on here. Dang, we shouldn't have gotten in the car together, because like there's only one steering wheel. I've been really fortunate because I've had both. I've had a wonderful partner who was misaligned. And so you can guess how that turned out. And good thing my current partner, we are completely aligned. So like we're having a great time driving together to the same destination.
Awesome. Awesome advice. So yeah, basically exactly like a marriage or a relationship. So, and then finally, what are some issues, do and don'ts that you could advise on? Any off the top of your head, like the number one thing you tell everyone to do, and maybe the number one thing you tell everyone to avoid?
I've got something controversial here.
Love it.
I wouldn't listen to mentors. I would just listen to customers. And if you're getting advice from your mentors that is counter to that, then I'd say you've got the wrong set of mentors. Because the reality is most mentors aren't customers. And I think I was so esteemed as a young entrepreneur. We got accepted into this big fancy accelerator program in San Francisco. And I was like to the moon, and it was all these big shot mentors. And I sat down with these mentors, and the feedback I got was garbage. It was mostly reparroting advice that worked for them. That's what I saw over and over and over. And the reality is their customers weren't my customers. Their product wasn't my product. And it kind of dawned on me that like, it doesn't matter what all these big wigs, hotshots think. It only matters what customers think. So that's my final bit of advice. Spend all your time talking to customers and learning from customers and listening to customers, and don't spend any time engaging mentors, because you're probably going to get some bad advice.
Thank you for your candidness, Nathan.
So I appreciate his candor too. I'm leaning somewhat the same direction, perhaps not as hostile about mentors, but at the end of the day, the best advice I can give is customer discovery. That is the number one thing I tell all the startups I work with. You cannot do enough customer discovery early on in your business, and you should always be doing it, even if you're established. But early on, the founders always think, well, I've got it in the bag. I know what I'm doing. I've talked to enough customers, and they just go blindly down this path. And then they do get the mentors who tell them something different, and they stop listening to the customers, and they go the way the mentor tells them, and then another mentor tells them something different, and they just lose their way. So to that degree, I agree with Nathan that mentors can be dangerous. I do think, though, that there's some value in getting some mentors to give you thoughts and advice. But at the end of the day, remember, it's your business, your startup, you and your founders and co-founders and your partners, and the customer is almost always right. I always have to say almost, because sometimes there's some crackpot customers out there, but the customers should guide a lot of your business decisions. Mentors are there to give you thoughts and input and advice, but they're not gods. They're humans too, and they make mistakes, and they sometimes give some really rotten advice.
So customers. Laurel, anything to add?
I would say kind of on that same front, I would just say go for it. You know, a lot of people I think are afraid to actually try something new, or if they haven't started a business, they're afraid of taking that first step. And I would say my advice would be go for it. Try to get customer validation and seek out those resources within your network and just start. I mean, it's as easy as that. And I think that's the best first step that anyone can take. You know, is just lean in, trust your intuition, and give it a shot. What's the worst that can happen? Doesn't work out, and then you start over and you try something new.
Awesome,
You know, and
awesome.
I bet all of us have been to conferences where they put the entrepreneur on the stage, and the entrepreneur, you know, what advice do you have? Fail fast. Or, you know, I've had a lot of failures. I agree, Laurel, just go for it. If it was easy, everybody would do it. It's not easy. And show me an entrepreneur that hasn't failed once or twice or 50 times. You know, that's because those are the entrepreneurs that do it. And I've learned so many lessons, making so many stupid mistakes, but every time I get incrementally a little bit better, a little bit stronger.
Awesome. With that, we're pushing, you know, about 5-7 minutes left. So I want to make sure, like I said, very important that we're done within our 45-minute window. And I want to give everybody a chance to have any, you know, closing thoughts or any plugs for upcoming events. That said, Thursday, August 12th in Council Bluffs over at Full Fledged Brewing, we'll be having our second post-COVID meetup group for CB, Pot County, really anyone. Entrepreneurs, small businesses, just come have a drink on us, make some connections, meet some folks. Again, next Thursday from 4:30 to 6. And then last year we did re-up the Rev pitch competition with TS Bank here locally. It was done virtually, unfortunately, in 2020, but this year we will be having a live event. As of right now, you can do a 5-minute pitch and get 10 grand for your business or your startup, whatever you have going, open to anyone. So those applications are open now. Also want to thank Nathan and as well as NEF, our co-host today, for coming in as sponsors for Rev 2021. That said, we do still have openings for that as well. Reach out to me if you're interested or just want any more information on the process and on the competition. With that, I'm going to send it over to Christine to talk about anything they would have going on over at Nebraska Enterprise Fund. And then again, panelists, you guys are awesome. This has been incredible information. You guys are a wealth of knowledge and I love it. So thanks so much for giving us your 45 minutes of your day today. Christine?
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate the knowledge. It's fantastic. Just to bring up a couple things, next month, our 45-minute mogul will be everything to pitch, how to create a pitch, what is a pitch deck, what do you include, the do's and don'ts, and then also your elevator pitch. So that might help some of you prepare for Rev. That'll be the next month after that. Also, so on September 7th is the Small Business Essentials. We partner with the Small Business Development Center and do some business essential webinars. And we have Jacob Molisek with ARC Financial. He's going to do an overview of QuickBooks Online. And then September 28th and 29th, he will be in Council Bluffs at the Holiday Inn at Ameristar, doing actually a 2-day QuickBooks class. And we partnered with him to offer that for $59. It's normally a $300 class if you were to take it elsewhere. So that's a great deal. What else do we have going on? I think that's it through September. Nikki. And thanks again to all our panelists. And it was great to meet all of you. And I hope we can sometimes get together and just have a great conversation. Thanks.
Absolutely. Laurel, I'm going to go ahead and ladies first. Let us know what the chamber has going on or the Startup Collaborative, or just any plugs you want to share. You have the floor.
Sure. I would just say, as I mentioned at the very beginning, one of the programs we're really diving deep into is our First Customer Network. I'm going to drop a link to a little bit more information about that. And if you're interested in learning a little bit more or joining our First Customer Network, we're definitely in our early stages and we're looking for both founders, startups, and some of those Omaha, as I said, greater Omaha area chamber members to engage in this space. So I would say that's my biggest plug, is just take a look at that landing page and reach out with any questions if you have them.
Awesome. Alex? On the
I just put a link in the chat. The Iowa Startup Accelerator is taking applications until August 15th. You must be an Iowa-based company, and the application's pretty straightforward. It's a 6-month program. It begins September 13th. There are only a few residential days to begin the program, September 13th, 14th, 15th in Cedar Rapids. The rest of it's almost all virtual, except for demo day at the end of the program, and then 1 day in Des Moines for a day-long sales seminar. So if you're interested, fill out an application or just reach out to me and I'll be glad to answer any questions. Thanks for inviting me to this panel. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you, Alex. I appreciate you being here. And Nathan.
Hey, life is short. And this is one of these, you don't want to live with regrets. And if you've been thinking about starting up, you absolutely can and should. You've got nothing to lose and everything to gain. I am co-founder of something called Proven Ventures. We're a debt equity fund. We invest in Midwest startups that are sort of hell-bent on revenue over growth at all costs. We invest in diverse teams, big on women, people of color. And if you've got a startup that's got a little bit of revenue and you're just looking for a little bit more capital to accelerate that growth, we'd love to give you a look. Proven.ventures.
Awesome. And anyone out there watching later or attending now, again, it can be as simple as, there's a problem that I know how to solve. Call me. I don't have all the answers, but I will connect you to people like Laurel, Nathan, and Alex that do. Whether it's, in our area, so to speak, or outside of it, we definitely just do it. I mean, take the plunge, right? That said, we still have a couple minutes to spare, so I can stay on my, 100% being done within 45 minutes. Unless Christine has anything else to add, we'll go ahead and give you the rest of your Thursday.
Now, I don't have anything to add. I just think that everybody on here just to really listen. I won't call you mentors because you don't refer people to mentors, but these people that can help you move your ideas or your business along. It's fantastic. So thank you again.
Yes. Thank you all for attending, and everyone else, have a great rest of your day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.